Phil, everybody's doing it, so I figured we should probably do it too. Let's talk about our impressions on what we have to look at thus far from Sorcery spoilers. I have compiled a list that I have meticulously compiled from the Collector Art House website. So thank you to Mike for hosting the images for these cards. I don't think this is every single card that's been spoiled thus far, but it is most of them. So I think we'll go through and just give our impressions on those cards, and if there's other stuff that I think I've watched a couple other people's reactions and stuff, and there might be one or two cards that I haven't seen on here that I know are on other people's reactions, so we can talk about those as well. So let's share my screen here, and we can talk about what is going on with the new Sorcery cards here. All right, there we go. All right, so we're just going to go right down the list here of all the Gothic spoilers that Collector Art House has. Blessed Village has Ward, and it is an Earth site.
Yeah, so we've seen Ward and what it does, and I think that there's something to be done with that. Like, I think we're going to see a bunch more cards that care about Ward as things, like breaking Ward. Like, we've seen cards that say break stealth on them, and so I imagine things that just like incidentally have Ward will just use that as a resource beyond just combat oriented things. But what's cool about Ward on a site though is it is impervious to the first attack, which is pretty sweet, right? Like, it just breaks the Ward when it's first hit. And so like if you're at death's door and can ward a site that like that's or fearing that you're going to be about to be on death's door and then ward the site that would otherwise put you there, like that's like a time walk. That's pretty sweet.
No, you will be able to be attacked on that site if it's you. But if you're close to death's door and they have that as an option to attack, they'll have to attack that first. Because if you're there, you're not going to be protected under the ward. They can attack your
avatar. Yeah. But like, what's cool is like there are cards that care about or that say like ward a site. Like there's I think it's a common that we'll find later that's like ETB or Genesis ward a site. And so essentially like putting up a block against your like a big attack or a big attacker that's on a place, having to make it move is pretty sweet. And it's interesting because like what that does spatially makes me think that it's possible that it's like smart potentially with how you would build a war deck if you want to be a little bit more defensive in your strat, to not build your sites like adjacent to each other. Like you want to sort of like build them along a column. That way, if they can't move side to side, like they don't have options. They can only go one way if they want to bypass a warded site. It's interesting.
That'll definitely be interesting to see if the common ways we build out the realm change because of the way that these new cards come out. All right, let's move on to Guardian Angel. Guardian Angel is a 3-power airborne angel. It's exceptional. That's just as fly to a weaker allied minion and ward it. It's 2 Earth threshold and 4.
What do you think of this one?
Airborne's great. Being able to fly to a weaker minion and ward it is also sort of like it almost is a removal spell level of like of good, because if your minion is big enough or would trade with another minion, 3 is pushing it a little bit, right? Because this has a 3 power, so any weaker minions are 1s and 2s. But if you're able to like trade with something because this thing flies to it, also just being able to be like, hey, I'm going to support one of my guys at this site. I'll play this minion and boop. Fly is nearby. You get to go nearby to anything within that quote unquote king's move. And if this just allows you to get even more aggressive and put a ward onto one of your guys, that's not actually that bad. If your opponent has to use removal on this thing and not your 2-power guy, you still have a 2-power guy with a ward on it. I think that I think that this card is good. Do I think it's like role player playable? I honestly don't see this as being like a card I would throw into just any deck.
Remind me, you're able to stack wards, right?
No, 1 ward.
1 ward at a time. Okay, yep, so that also like it's this thing coming in and warding a weaker minion. It means that it's going to ward 2 or 1 power plays. I could see something like it makes me think that you would want to, if you can get some sort of positional advantage, because this does get the free movement when it ETBs, if you can make that somehow relevant in your positioning and think about that, because this is exceptional. Like, you can expect to draw one of these, pretty reliably, like knowing that there's 3 in your deck, even when we go to 60 cards. And so if you can just think like playing towards top decking this, so you can make the movement of having this, relatively thick airborne minion more relevant, that seems pretty good. And then also, like,
let's not just consider the fact that a minion's value is based solely on its power, right? There might be some minion you want that has an effect that you want to protect, right? Like, there are minions that produce mana. There are minions that do special effects every turn, like
totally, yeah.
Maybe you want to ward your wayfaring pilgrim so he can get to the corner, there are reasons that you might want to protect a minion beyond its power. So that is something you should take into consideration at least a little bit when you're thinking about this card.
Yeah, and also something else that we don't know yet, but it is part of the Gothic thing. It's like, we know that we care about evil, so that's demons, undead, and
monsters.
We care about by that being a batch, we care potentially about not those things.
Yes, and mortals,
like mortal, like anything non-evil, we could potentially care about. But also, we've seen Michael, which we'll talk about in this spoiler spread. Like, angels are also part of the Gothic trope, and so it's possible that like just the type of angel could be relevant in the spoilers too. And I'm keeping an eye out for that, because especially since we've gotten Samael, right? That we've gotten Samael, we've gotten Michael. Like, there's going to be like the unique angels that we're going to get, and if there's any amount of like, okay, we care about evil, therefore we care about non-evil, but then we can also potentially care about like specific like anti-evil angel type, things, because there's also stuff where they like will nod to spirits as part of like the Gothic trope, even though they're not in evil, because there are some spirits in the game where it's like I forget who I was listening to, but they were like, yeah, it would be weird because Mother Nature is a spirit, and it's weird.
The spirits can't be evil. There's too many. There's too many good.
Yeah, it's too wide.
Good or just normal aligned. Like, spirits are not every ghost is evil. Not every person who died is evil, right?
Yeah,
just the ones that come back.
So I'm holding out. I'm medium on this angel, but I'm high on potentially getting angel support.
Sure. Let's move on. Holy Warrior, 2 mana, 1 Earth Threshold for a 2 power ordinary mortal with ward. Phil, what do you think? On the scale of Kettletop Leprechaun, right? How good is this card?
Well, I think it depends on the things that you want to do with it, right? It having ward, like ward being a protection effect, you can proactively use a protection effect. So like, if this gets into combat and can kill a thing or soften a thing for a kill, and then but like it's leveraging ward to some extent. I think like this sort of stuff with any relics that buff it could be pretty powerful. Especially if you like buff this thing, get in for a swing, and then they want to try and remove it, and then it breaks the ward and you get to swing again. That ward represented like however much that attack is worth. So I think that like I particularly am pretty high on like things that can get onto the board early that your opponent doesn't want to have to deal with.
Yeah, this sucks to deal with. Like, if you have to like trade a card with this and then also trade a card with this on top of that, that's a pain. Even if it's like I just have to swing my avatar into it early because, who knows, there might be somebody who's like, oh, I'm going to buff this guy, or, put a crown of victory on him, anything that makes this guy sticky, like this word does. And then on top of that, like in Magic, there is a archetype called Boggles, right? And basically it just it's this concept, right? Stick a bunch of stuff onto a guy that's already kind of sticky on the board. And I think one of the things we've sort of learned in the early days of this card game is that you don't want minions just sticking around, right? You don't want them chilling on the board for any longer than they have to. And Holy Warrior is a card that also flies in the face of cards like Poison Nova. When you just like want to remove annoying minions, you generally are like, oh, I'll just do the thing, right? And then it gets rid of them. Even doing something like, I think it's like All Mortals Destroyed or All Mortals Gone, something like that. Like, Ward stops that because Ward will stop it from dying, right? So like that anything like this that's like relatively low cost power to square statted as it were, um, for its mana cost and has something additional on it is at least worth looking at. Not to mention there might be a mortals deck. There is a card that we'll see a little bit later that gives all mortals +1. So like you could get to a point where there's a mortals deck that's like jamming in there.
Yeah, and also like I think this is the type of card too that we've seen. What avatars have been spoiled so far, Zach?
Just Necromancer, I think. We might see another one down here, but I only want to talk about Necromancer for right now until we're positive.
Yeah, I also know that like with like having Ward, this being like the bread and butter for the new mechanic, like the 2/2 with the ability, like the new thing that they want to show off. And it's pretty flexible. I think that like it's flexible in a way where you could build it up to be like a protective element to play a more defensive controlling game. In which case you would still want this thing, because if this thing can trade, if Ward can essentially draw a card by trading for a minion, which again, it means that you want to improve this thing's size. But I think it all revolves around that, because if you want to get aggressive and use this as a way to get an additional attacks before they can and use the Ward to get in for additional damage, or use it as a way to draw a card in that like you can trade for multiple things on the defensive end before they can get in. It offers a lot of flexibility, and because this thing is so low to the ground and the Ward is just tacked onto it, I'm sort of high on this thing. It lets you go in a couple of different directions. It's flexible. It may seem like it's sort of just like bread and butter, like limited play, but I think this can be as good as you want it to be, and the opportunity cost for it is so low because the casting cost for it is as minimum as they can make it.
Yeah. All right, next one. Reverend Revenant. This is a 1 mana earth minion for 1 earth, 3 power, ordinary spirit, fights for the faithful, has 0 power unless adjacent to an allied ward. Phil, before you got into the game, during the 40-20 era, there was a deck that used cards that already had like the pirate ship that we played against. We played with each other, right? That had like waterbound. They had these negative abilities, but then you played a card called Sisters of Silence that would silence all nearby minions, right? So if you can silence your like minions that have a drawback but are low costed, a card like this is already very good. But if you're playing this in a ward deck as well, like it just is even that much better.
Yeah, I was talking to a couple of different people that were like, yeah, you play all these like undercosted things, then you just play silence or whatever. That way they just like get the value.
Yeah. Like you can play phalanx, you can play crabs, things that have like movement restrictions, and then they just don't if you have silence out, right?
Yeah, and so I think that like if you're in that space, that's like the square one with this thing. But it also, what we were talking about with what was it, Holy Warrior?
Yeah. Holy something.
It's like also if you move in a band, right? Like you play these cards alongside each other on the cheap. Like if you go turn 1 this, turn 2 warrior, move up, and now if they played a site in front of you, you're going to be attacking for 5. And one of those things is warded, and then if you have additional ways to like secure wards, like you're just getting really aggressive, and it's going to be really hard to remove these things because they're sticky, because ward is just a sticky mechanic. Like, yes, this card is like leaning aggressive, but if you want to be on the aggro deck, like they're giving you a pre-conned curve here.
Yeah. I think this is one of those cards. It's just like it's going to be a role player in the decks that you want it in for sure. All right. Next is Night Watchmen. They are a 3 mana, 1 earth, 3 power minion. Mortals. Genesis, ward the site. I mean, I think that's fine. I'm not writing home about Night Watchmen, but ward the site is an interesting ability. And if you can throw this at one of your top ranks, you can put yourself into a situation where now your opponent has to like attack uselessly into this site to unlock being able to attack the site. So again, these square statted guys that just have like an extra ability are to me at least interesting, if not worth it in every single deck.
Yeah, I'm more interested in what are the cool sites that we're going to get that you really want, that are like the build around sites. Like, is there a site that you like when it's on the table, you want to make sure that it stays on the table, and you're interested in like, essentially building around that thing. I think this is leaning heavily on what it's going to ward and like what that produces for you. So I'm holding out judgment on this one. Like square statted is fine, but what the effect is going to vary depending on like the thing that you're actually giving ward to. And if they give us some cool exceptionals that you're reliably going to see that have some sort of static ability that you can leverage to a good extent, making sure that that thing stays around to give your other minions or whatever other value you're getting from it. I think that's where this card is going to be. I think it's contingent on something else.
Yeah. All right. Let's check out the next one here. Holy Nova. I think this is what you were alluding to before, being able to break a ward. So this is a break an allied ward to center the spell at the caster's location, and it does this damage here. So this is a magic for 4 and 2 Earth Threshold, and it's Purifying Pulse of Exceptional Magic. Deal damage to each enemy at the affected locations. Then you can break a allied ward to center the spell at that location instead of the caster. So basically, those sites, right? You basically are just putting a bomb on that site, right? Or if you have a minion that has a ward that you're okay with breaking, you're putting a bomb on that minion and having them wander around with that bomb on them, right? So just to give people listening on a audio platform a idea of what the damage is, it's 9 squares, 3 in the middle, 2 orthogonally, and 1 diagonally. So you get an idea of how much damage that's doing around. It's not huge, but there's a non-zero number of times early on in the game that you just want to brick all of your opponent's creatures by doing like 1 or 2 damage to them. So I think this is a card that is totally defensible in playing and can be like an early board wipe at 4 mana.
Yeah, I also don't know, like, seeing these cards that have the grids with numbers on them, it just depends on, like, yes, like, removal is good, like, getting potentially more than one thing is good, but also, like, I don't know how these numbers stack up against, like, what you expect to run into. Like, if you're playing Holy Nova and they have, what's that thing that you always tell me is, like, you gotta fear the beast that they can play on your water site early?
A Lugbog Cat.
Like, this is not going to do anything against the cat, right?
Yeah,
so it's like in that regard, this card is trash. But like, then if you're playing against, I don't know, some deck that's pumping out a bunch of foot soldiers or whatever, this can be awesome. So I don't know how good this is going to be, but whenever I'm seeing cards that are exceptional or ordinary, we know that we're getting the toolbox stuff in the collection, and I could see this something, this is like part of your silver bullet package or whatever that you could always tech into.
Important to note as well, it's each enemy at affected locations. So this is one-sided, and it's just something to think about is having those asymmetrical effects. It could be pretty amazing. All right, so let's go to the next one here. We have Archangel Michael. This is what you alluded to before. For 5 mana, 4 Earth Threshold, we have a 4-power angel with Airborne and Ward, and the Genesis is Michael takes a step and then strikes all enemies at this location.
Zac, how much is you? I haven't played this game long enough to know how difficult is a quadruple threshold.
It's pretty difficult, man. That's a lot. That's a lot of threshold to have to do. You kind of have to be at worst a 2-color deck. You almost for 4, you kind of need to be like, and this is 4 at 5. If this was 4 at 8 and had like, it was worth playing at 8, right? I'd say it's defensible to think about throwing this into a 3-color deck. But 4 at 5 for an effect that is a nice, unique effect, but it's not like game breaking. The game isn't over. You're not like playing Death Dealer, And Death Dealer, Death Dealer costs 7, but only has what I think 2 red threshold to like put into play. Has a 4 power as well. But Airborne and Ward give this a little extra utility, right? Like this, if you can get this down, like it's making you pay for that extra 2 threshold for 2 threshold more in value. I feel like Airborne and Ward, on top of the fact that this is going to Genesis, take a step, and then strike all enemies at that location, which means that you can wipe an entire location out if your opponent has stacked up guys. I think you're going to find that people are really really going to have to learn how to spread the realm out properly with cards like this in there. On top of the fact that like cards like Poison Nova exist, like movement's going to become even more important, obviously. But I think this is a fine beater in a deck that just wants like, hey, I need a mid-range guy that I can throw down and like get like 2 or 3 cards worth of advantage off of. This card's great.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this card's insane. Like, as one of like the 4 unique angels, like the unique angels carrying the mantles, like have to for each of their shoulder have to be insane. Like, also the level up with this of being able to take a step, which is huge with airborne, and then striking all enemy minions. Like, you can really set up some insane plays with like, you know, any type of effect that would care about when something is struck at a location and just building your stuff there. And like you also said, when this is all enemies, these asymmetrical, like we're seeing these asymmetrical like wrath effects that this is just going to be super swingy when it comes down and hits the table. And then the fact that it also just has ward on top of it, like it is a sticky threat on top of generating however much value it has when it comes in. Like, this thing, when it comes into play, is always going to change the game.
Yeah. All right, let's check out the next card. Oh, Molten Moor, exceptional sight. Genesis, so it creates 1 red threshold. Genesis is you may cast Hellhounds from your collection to the site.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, I think so. I think, you know, as a site that just makes red mana, fine. You know, sometimes you need that. But the fact that this, like, you know, I think in that Pathfinder deck we were messing around with, there were a lot of sites in that deck that like didn't do anything. Like they were playing Wasteland because they just didn't have enough unique red sites to like make the deck work. But like a card like this, Genesis cast Hellhounds from your collection. Hellhounds, I believe, cost 3. Like, so if you can just like this draws you a card, right? If you're an aggro deck that wants to play red, like there's gonna be a non-zero number of times you just have to throw this down and you're like, I have other things I need to do. But like the number of times that you're just like, I'm gonna play this and get a Hellhounds for free. Not for free, you gotta pay the mana, right? But the cost of like, I have a Hellhounds or 2 in my collection, let's go. You know, I think that this card's gonna be very good. And I think it's gonna be a role player in almost any deck that can put up a couple red threshold that wants to be either mid range or aggressive.
Yeah, I think like it's essentially a site that draws a card, which can be very powerful because it's not a you just don't have to draw the threat. Like, if this is on your opening hand, it just represents a threat, which is really powerful because it's also giving you threshold that you like, you know, you're in red or you're in fire. I think that the value of this thing is going to be really contingent upon how tight we feel our collection actually is once we get all these new cards. How much space is each slot actually fighting for? And if you can allocate a slot or a couple slots to these types of sites, if you want just additional bodies that you can draw cards with. The other thing that's really nice about this type of card is, let's say, you know, as an Archie player myself, if you're like, man, I would really like to not spend any of my deck space on, or my deck space on as few minions as I can because magic is what matters, then cards like this that you get to draw threats / minions without having to actually put them in your spell book, that is also a whole dynamic that like is going to be really interesting to play around with.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. You know, I'm sure that I think there's one for every color. I'm guessing that like puts something in. So I'm very excited to see this because there's not great ways to draw cards in this game. You know, like we're paying 6 mana to draw 3, and that's like one of the better cards in the game. Is Grandmaster Wizard. So a card like this that asks really nothing of you aside from like, did you put Hellhounds in your collection? And you know, we'll see how truncated your collection gets for these kind of effects. But like, I think that this is going to be a thing that a lot of decks are going to want to play, and you're going to fear when it hits the board because you're going to know that your opponent got a free card that they didn't have to spend a card on. They still have a grip, you know. I think almost always, if you can play this on turn 3 and pay 3 mana for a Hellhounds, you're probably going to want to.
Yeah, I would think so. Talking about it a little bit more now, I'm realizing that the implication of not having to draw a threat, you just get to put it in your collection, is really potent. If
think about the times when you like are like, God, I don't want to have to spend a draw on a site and then you draw this, and you're like, perfect.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, right? Is like you get to draw a sight and you get to draw a threat, and being able to draw from like both your spellbook and your atlas essentially is like there's certainly some potency to that, if not tempo, right?
All right, next up is Desecrated Ground. An exceptional sight rejects God's grace. Evil units have +1 power. Phil, this is a weird one for me. And there has been another card spoiled that makes this card better. But generally, if you're evil, this is just me talking flavor here. If you're an evil deck, are you a defensive deck, Phil?
No, you got to rain terror upon your opponent.
You don't. Unless you're, I just don't see very often an evil deck that's like going to be defensive. So I say all that to say this: because this is your site that you're playing, right? Your opponent's not going to have these in their deck, right? You're not going to be attacking Desecrated Ground with your minions. You're just going to be there. You're going to have your minions. Like if it said minions nearby have +1 power, ooh, amazing, right? Minions here have +1 power, not as good.
Minions here?
Sorry, evil units here, I should say. Evil units here have +1 power, which is interesting, Phil, because what is a unit?
Do you think there's going to be
thinking about that, right?
I didn't even read into that at all. You're saying that there might be one of the avatars that haven't been spoiled yet might have
there could be
a
avatar
monster avatar
that is evil or undead, or I mean does we'd have to look at Necromancer to see if Necromancer says that it's undead, but I don't think it is. But there might be an avatar it's like monster avatar or demon avatar. There could be a demon avatar. Why not? Right?
That's so much more interesting. And then like maybe their like static ability also cares about how much power they have.
Yeah, it is
cool.
It's a neat. Well, there's a ton of implication to that, right? It's very, very interesting. But there is a card, and I'm going to talk about it because I know that another show talked about it, called Desecrate Ground, I think it's called. Let me find it. I'm going to type it up real fast. Desecrate. It's called Desecrate. So this card, I don't have it up. Sorry. It says an evil ally strikes its site, then transform it into a desecrated ground from your collection. So now, Phil, now I'm on your side, right? With my zombie, right? And my zombie strikes the site and does whatever its power is and damage to the site. And then the site flips into a desecrated ground that is still yours. You still own it. And now I control a couple things, right? Now your site is not a site that has the text that your site has anymore. So if it's a defensive site, if it's a holy ground, whatever it is, right? Whatever card that you have, whatever that site is.
So just so I know what that card actually does, when you transform something and turn it into a desecrated ground. So like, let's say you do that to me, right? You do that to my site. So now it's my desecrated ground, right? It's still going to produce me mana.
Exactly. But
okay. So it's not like it's...
the evil units that I have there are able to attack the site at +1 power.
Yeah. But it's not like it's not sinkholing me.
No, it's not. It's not sinkholing you. It's just taking your site and turning it into this air site, right? Which is by itself, if it was just doing that, is pretty potent. But the fact that this card is also damaging the site by itself, it's like my guy hits that site, then it negates whatever your site does with my desecrated ground, right? From my collection. You have to have it in your collection, right? Then on top of that, all of my units, assuming I have evil units there, have +1 power and are going to hit in for extra damage. So you're literally doing, this card probably converts for 4 to 5 damage by itself, and can possibly put your opponent in a situation where a site that they had that was really potent for them is now not doing anything.
Yeah, that's like, oh man, the implications of that are so wide. I don't even know how to like properly assess
it. I mean, think of it like, imagine if I had a vampire here, right? And I have the vampire hit the site, I gain 4 life, right? It flips into this. Right now, the vampire has a 5 power. I attack again. Right, you just took 9 damage and I gained 9.
Oh, this for some reason I just didn't read into this card as powerful it was. But you're right. The card that like can pull this out of the collection means that like it's a really reliable like a really reliable play pattern
It's just
as an
super
exceptional
huge.
trait.
It's huge disruption, and it's huge. What's called just extra damage. Like if like you might just be in a situation where you don't care right now whether or not it's desecrated or not, but like you need to get in that last piece of damage, and your opponent has got a bunch of guys that can block at that site. But you get to have this spell that auto strikes a site. That's not
Yeah,
blockable. You know, like that by itself is good. Then it flips, oh, desecrated ground. Now it's evil. Yeah, I'm just saying this is a huge like 2-card combo. Just having desecrated ground in your like it's funny because desecrated ground as an exceptional card, if this was a card that like you wanted to have in your deck, I'd be like, man, it's a bummer that you have to like, decide how many of these you want in your main deck and how many of you want in your collection. But like you don't want these in your collection if you're an evil deck that's attacking, right? Like you don't want them in your spell book if you're an evil deck that's attacking. You want them in your collection so that you can use desecrate to put them onto your opponent's side of the board.
yeah. That becomes the thing. Is like how powerful does desecrate become as something that you do want?
So powerful. I think it's the grapple shot,
So?
shot or blink of this set so far.
I trust your judgment more than mine when it comes to like analyzing these sort of things. But like I'm sort of more wide eyed on this card than I was before. I remember thinking like, oh yeah, +1 power. It's like obviously very good. We've seen pump effects before, but I was not thinking about it as like, oh yeah, here's a way that you get to like disrupt and beat your opponent all at once.
Not to
And
mention
like,
the fact that like it would be actively not good if desecrate didn't exist. Like, why would you want this as like it basically says like all blocking creatures get +1. You don't care about that. Blocking is for people who want to do math.
Yeah, blocking is for math is for blockers.
So I mean, I don't want to spend too much more time on this card, but like that's just something I was like, "Ooh, that is brutal." If you get that, we got to find the art. I'm sure it probably is down here somewhere, but I feel like it's important to talk about while we're talking about desecrated ground. Let's move down to Fields of Fixes.
Fields of Fixes.
Site directly in front of this is Silence. I mean, this is a role player card, right? Like,
yeah, totally.
I picked up I think this is the promo version. I picked these up with some of my dust from when I won the Cornerstone. I picked up 3 of these, 3 haystacks, and 3 of the what's the other one? River of Blood. I picked up three of each of those.
Dude, I hate haystack.
Well, how do you feel about River of Blood?
Yeah, it's like, look, like I feel like as good as Life Gain is, like Life Gain is already dead at Death's Door, and you can't and Life Gain you can't even go above 20. I can't even proactively play my Life Gain.
Yep.
Life Gain already has so many like it is good when it's good, but like Life Gain inherently from the mechanics of the game already has so many bottlenecks in that like you can't go above 20, so that limits the power of Life Gain generally. You can't play it at Death's Door, so there's like inherent dead draws if your opponent can get you there, before you convert the Life Gain at all. Like
this is the card I would play with Plats, by the way. The card that we were talking about a couple episodes ago that can get any exceptional site and be played on.
Yeah. This is for sure. Like if you're playing Ursat's Plats, this is an excellent card to have in the collection.
In fact, I think all 3 of these, including Haystack, all 3 of these are cards that this is Plat. No, it's not Plats.
Haystack being asymmetrical is like, whew.
Yeah, so rude, right?
It's so rude.
All right. So we've talked about the 3 promo cards there. Bone Jumble, Phil. Bone Jumble. I think that I'm higher on this card than I think most people are going to be, because we've seen the Necromancer. You can make a lot of skeletons with that like ability, and I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of other cards. I think we've also seen Master Necromancer has been spoiled. We've seen a lot of cards that make skeleton tokens. And what you're going to find is that if you can pay 1 to make a charge minion and just like, boop, I'll do a damage here, and I'll do a damage here, and I'll do damage, being able to pay 1 to make a charge minion by trading your skeleton for it, basically giving your skeletons charge for 1 mana is enough to be able to like trade off and mess around with stuff. But then there's cards like Necronoma Concert, right? Like if you have Bone Jumble and you have, I think there's Bone Foul in here as well that has been spoiled. So those are cards that are just going to be sitting in your graveyard. If you're playing like Necronoma Concert, you can sacrifice your skeleton tokens to get uniquely named undead into the battlefield to draw cards with that. So I think this card to me is like it's going to be a role player. It's going to be a card you are actually going to want 3 of in your deck, and you're going to find like, wow, this is really good, especially if you can find a way to pump your undead.
Yeah, I think that there's just, it's really hard to assess the value of like just tacking on an additional damage to any removal spell at all. As so far in my limited time playing sorcery, I've cast a lot of lightning bolts, and there's a ton of times where I'm like, man, if this thing could deal 4, I would really appreciate that. And like the incidental +1 of like just, you know, especially with necromancer, just like boop, here's an additional damage on top of anything else. It's just like I think it's underrated.
Let me real quick. I you know, again, people listening on audio won't know. So this is a 1 mana air minion for 1 air. And it has 1 power, and it has charge. It's exceptional, and it says for 1 mana, sacrifice a skeleton token to summon Bone Jumble to your cemetery from there. So, you know, take everything we said into consideration. You're gonna want skeletons, obviously, but if you can pump out a bunch of skeletons, you can basically give those skeletons haste for an extra mana.
Yeah, and I too am also a lot higher on it than it meets the eye, just because I've been wanting to like things that do incidentally an additional damage to just like make the removal spells a lot better. And I think it's just going to be, you know, this when, especially like it just being in the cemetery and threatening that it can do that can also mess with your opponent's positioning. Like there's a lot of implied value in a card like this that can keep, that's recursive. And so I also am pretty high on it, despite how innocuous it might seem.
Yeah. All right. Undead Ambush. This is 3 mana for 1 air threshold, exceptional magic of Grave Surprise. Summon a skeleton to each other adjacent. Summon a skeleton token to each other adjacent site to target enemy. So
yeah, this is the border militia for skeletons.
This is summon 4 skeletons, basically.
Yeah, which is pretty powerful.
For 3 mana, summon 4 skeletons.
Three mana, 4 bodies, and then if there are things that you care about those bodies with, which presumably there's going to be a ton of that in this set, like this being exceptional again is like another card that you could reliably build around to get a bunch of bodies that are, you know, would have like other implicit value in your deck. So like the things that this thing will enable strike me as like this will be very good.
Yeah. All right. Stygian Archers. So 3 mana, 2 air threshold for a 3 power minion, exceptional undead, ranged. Whenever they kill an enemy, summon a skeleton token. Look at that, more skeleton tokens. You know, I think that, again, this is going to be like a role player in a deck that wants to make skeletons.
Yeah, and this one also, like, dude, I'm high on ranged. Just like ranged generally is just like so powerful. Like just moving this thing around and knowing that you can like just, you know, range down opponents' stuff. This is also another point where like the jumble is really good, right? Like the jumble now can be wherever this thing like sticks a skeleton. And so it's like this thing is just going to be like those two things together, like this and then a jumbo. What is it? Jumble?
Bone Jumble.
Bone Jumble in your graveyard is just 4 damage at anything within its range.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's if it kills the enemy, it's going to get a skeleton token. So
right, but that skeleton can move.
Yeah.
And so like that, you can just like control a whole king's box with this thing.
Yeah. All right. Those Who Linger for 6 mana, 2 air threshold for a 4 power minion, dwindling host of exceptional undead. Deathrite, summon a ghoul from your collection to site. This and it has Deathrite, summon a skeleton token to this site. So if you have a ghoul in your collection, you can bring out a ghoul, which is a 3 power minion. So this just basically like it's again, it's sticky. This dies, you get a ghoul. The ghoul dies, you get a skeleton. You know, just more stuff to like stay on the board.
One thing that generates bodies, I look at these cards and I think that there's some sort of combo potential because like if there's any sort of sack outlet that you get where it's like one thing represents 3 activations of whatever that effect might be. Like I keep this card, and like this in correspondence with or synergistically with like literally anything that would care about having multiple bodies to do work with is pretty good. So this is another one of those cards where I'm like, it says here's what you can do with the thing, and I'm like, okay, what's the thing that this is going to pay off?
Yeah. All right, we've got Draconian Bonekite for 7 mana, 3 air threshold for a 7 power dragon. Finally, 7 for 7 here. Unique dragon, undead and dragon. Airborne, then you can tap it, deal 3 damage to each other unit at a nearby location, summon a skeleton token for each unit that died there. More skeletons, Phil.
More skeletons. So many skeletons in this set. And I think this one is pretty stellar.
This one's cool, man. It's going to do board control. Now, let's not take it and let's not forget the fact that this can be a choice that you decide to go for your Dragon Lord. Maybe you want your Dragon Lord doing this.
I was going to say, every dragon that we see spoiled just having an avatar that you know you'll get that effect because of Dragon Lord's inherent static. It's like, okay, well, now there's a whole new context to look at every single dragon ever through. And this one is a pretty potent ability.
It really comes down to, is this better than Automaton? And I don't know that it is, but it does fit in the same deck. You can if you're playing Automaton with this or whatever, like either way, a very interesting effect. Being able to just do 3 damage each, like basically casting minor explosion and then getting skeletons for it is pretty wild. Especially if you are using that for your avatar and just being like, I'm just gonna pretend like my Dragon Lord is also a necromancer that does 3 damage to things.
Yeah, the other thing that is pretty powerful about this thing, because it says each other unit, is if whenever your opponent's at death's door, they can't like try and block this thing. This thing can just gets around all blockers because it deals 3 damage to all of it, and so like it will always kill an opponent at death's door if it's nearby, which is like for a set that's about to give us a ton of bodies in all of these skeletons. Skeletons can block where they are.
Yeah, they just can't move to defend. Yeah,
they can't move to defend. So if somebody's just like stacking a bunch of stuff at death's door, trying to like sandbag themselves to like not die, this thing just don't care.
You can ward the site that you're on though, and this will be stopped by the ward.
Oh yeah, because it's targeting a
nearby site. Yeah.
But like at the same time, warding a site should be able to fend off a Draconian Bonekite.
Yeah, of course. All right, next up, Sold Out Cemetery. Sold Out Cemetery is an elite site that accepts no new customers. Whenever undead enter the site, push another undead here away 1 step.
Honestly, I'm really surprised that this thing is elite. Like, this ability feels so powerful to me. Just like, there's some amount of, like, we can look at what's the, like, updraft ridge or whatever.
Yeah,
that like gives a like
+1 movement to flying to airborne.
Yeah, right? Just like now, it may not feel as potent for something like that because airborne minions typically have such a dynamic range of motion to begin with that it like may not feel as strong. But like being able to just give everything +1 movement to like really start making life difficult for your opponent positionally, it's like. There's just no, if this thing is in the center of the board or underneath your necromancer or whatever, like if this is in your first 2 squares, like it's just so hard for your opponent to ever escape the onslaught. Like it's just a barrage constantly.
The play that like woke me up to this card was like you play whatever on your first site under your avatar, and then you play this right in front of it, and then I was just scooting skeletons. I play a skeleton on turn 1, go. Turn 2, I play Sold Out Cemetery. I move a skeleton up. I play a skeleton. On turn 3, I play a skeleton, move a skeleton up to Sold Out Cemetery. That moves him up to your site, right? Okay, now that skeleton is now at another site. That skeleton can move, attack, and defend, right? Like, so it just became like, it was wild how potent that this card was.
It's very good.
Yeah.
All we can say is that it's very good.
Yep. Lacuna Entity this is a 3 water threshold for 5 mana for a 4 power submerge and void walk minion. It's elite monster. It says Genesis. Drag target weaker minion from adjacent site here, ignoring regions.
I'm very high on any type of card that manipulates your opponent's movement.
Not to mention, Void Walk. If you're ignoring regions, if your opponent does not have Void Walk, it's like, whoop, that's dead.
Yeah. I think that like just having played Body of Water at all, like or playing with like Body of Water and manipulating our opponent's movement, like I've been every time I have Maelstrom in play, I'm like, oh my god, this thing is so good. And so seeing this thing be like, okay, drag a weaker minion from an adjacent site, and this thing can move anywhere it wants on the board. And there's going to be like, if it's just sitting in a void, like your opponents can't touch it with their own minions. Like they just have to stay away from wherever it is. But then it also can just move like on like closer to them and pull it towards it. Like I think that this thing is just going to be pretty havoc. Now it is drag a weaker minion, so like that is potent. It can't. If your opponent just plays bigger stuff than this, it's not gonna. But at the same time, you could also pump this. You know, you can do things like this.
Well,
is
you
a
can't.
monster,
It's Genesis, so you can't like pump it until like in response.
Well, I'm totally reading this. Oh, I thought this. I was reading it wrong, bro.
It's just a Genesis.
I'm off.
It's a 187 creature.
It's a 187. It's not as good as I thought. I was thinking that this thing was like every turn. Yeah, this isn't as powerful as I thought because I didn't read the literal word Genesis on there, but it is still pretty sweet.
Yeah. All right, let's move on down to Abyssal Assault. This is the exceptional magic for 2 water threshold and 4 mana. Exceptional magic of Tentacular Bombardment. For each point of its power, allied monster may deal 1 damage to a unit in a square near it.
Okay, so this is finally cool to see, like, the types matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you are in the monster space. And now that we have confirmation that they're going to do things like this that care about specific types, not just evil generally, it also makes me want to, like, go back and look at, like, other monsters that have already been printed in the first
there
couple
are
of sets.
There are some undead, there are some monsters, and there obviously are some demons, but there aren't a ton, so it is very easy to like get those. I'm assuming that in time we'll get a website that really gives us a very good idea of how to find those subtypes.
Yeah, let's hope, because like being able to just like search to find like what is the optimal way to do this, because an allied monster may deal 1 damage to each unit near it. If you have a monster with lethal, like what is that Questing Beast? Questing Beast has that, right?
Questing Beast is a beast.
Oh, it's not a monster, right? Okay, yeah, I'm an idiot. But like,
even let's say there is, there's plenty of ways to give something lethal. It still is only dealing. It's the total amount of damage to one thing. It's not like getting to choose different things. It's just saying on a 1-for-1 with its power, it's dealing that damage. So you can hit like an avatar with it.
For each point of its power, an allied monster may deal 1 damage to a unit in a square near it. So like, that means that if I have a monster with 4 power, I can shoot 4 different things.
That makes sense because it's a tentacle, right? It's like, okay, yeah.
I mean, if this is only deal, like, it would feel weird to say for each point of its power.
Yeah. For each point of its power
damage
is like one thing, and it's like, okay, so you may do this one time. I was thinking it was just talking about scaling, but it's not. This happens for each point of its power.
I'm also thinking that like for each point of its power, it's also a way to like, if your opponent is pumping out all these skeleton tokens, right? You're just like, okay, shoot down each one of these 1 power things. But if it's lethal, this thing, if you have a monster with lethal inherently on it, and this being exceptional, like it'll be a lot easier for you to be able to find and play this thing. Like you could just build your own Wrath.
Yeah. Hey gang, I know things are looking pretty intense right now in the game, but you know what else would be intense?
Joining our Patreon. Just head over to patreon.com/eternaldurdles and sign up for the Magician tier so you can get all of our sorcery content.
Back to the game. All right, let's check out Regurgitator. Regurgitator is a 5 mana with 2 water threshold, 4 power minion. It is a elite monster that chucks unsettling ordnance. At the end of your turn, Regurgitator must either fill its empty belly by banishing a dead minion or empty its full belly by shooting a projectile that deals damage equal to the eaten minion's power. So basically, like every other turn, it's like banishing something from a graveyard and then just shooting it at its power. This is a weird one. Like, first off, you got to keep it in play for like 2 turns to really get that effect. But it is, if you're trying to exile stuff from your opponent's graveyard from their cemetery. It's not the worst.
I was gonna say, I think that this is actually pretty good in that it's a card that can do two different things, right? It's both cemetery disruption and it's removal, and both things tacked onto one card. Like 5 for 4 power monster isn't nothing. Like we know that monsters are gonna have some relevant support, and this thing being able to do double duty, so it's like against different decks, this thing is gonna be valuable.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Like
and like it's just shooting a projectile. You could hit, you could eat something huge and then just chuck it at your opponent.
Right. Yeah. It just being, it's potentially a burn spell, it's potentially a removal spell, and it's definitely graveyard hate.
Phil, I'm waiting for the person who figures out a way to discard the Great Old One to the Regurgitator, eat, and then throw 16 power at something. All right, next up, Thing in the Ice. At 3 mana and 2 water threshold, 6 power. Genesis, this is a unique monster that slowly thaws. Genesis is disabled for 3 of your turns, cannot be targeted or damaged by magic until the ice melts.
This is another card for the Revenant crab deck that you were talking about, right?
I suppose this is weird, right? Because it says disabled for 3 turns. If you silence it, you're saying.
Well, yeah, if you put it in that deck with silence where you just want like this is only a one of, right? Like you putting it into your deck as like a thicker beater, like as that you would want to curve into, like
yeah. If you're playing, not to mention like just this could be a fine, like I'm gonna play this whenever I draw it, and then it's now a problem for you a couple turns later. If you're like a slower deck, like
it's a monster, which might matter. I think like also I'm more forgiving of whatever a potential drawback for a unique might be if there's any upside, because as a one of in your 60, if this is just like, this isn't a build around, right? You can't build around a unique in a 60 card deck. Like that's just not how, like you like, maybe I'm wrong, because maybe we'll see what the collection like cards can offer, or like what other tutoring effects there might be for uniques. But like you in a 60 card deck, you just cannot build around a unique, right? Unless there's some sort of redundant ability that a bunch of different uniques have. So this being additional support for a strat, and you talking about the Sisters of Silence deck, or like the silence type deck where you're just getting undercosted beaters and you want to get aggro, like this would easily be a card that would slot into that as a one of, because why not?
Yeah. Also important to note here, it works with the tentacle thing, right?
It works with the assault. Your opponent, because it says can't be targeted or damaged by magic until the ice melts.
Yeah, you're not targeting it. You're just choosing an allied monster. That's an allied monster.
Curving this and then dealing 6 damage appropriately to wherever you want is pretty good.
Yep.
And also, it's nice to know that too, disabled, but it can't be targeted. So your opponent, it's not like your opponent can like remove this before it gets on.
Yeah, it's actually like kind of protecting itself, right?
It's going to be disabled for 3 turns, and then on your turn, when it's no longer disabled, like, so tell me how this would work. Genesis, disable for 3 turns.
So it's disabled on the turn it gets played.
Okay.
Your turn, my turn, it's still disabled.
No, disable for three of your turns, right?
I know. Your turn, my turn, it's still disabled. Your turn, my turn. On the 4th turn that it's in play on my side, so the turn it happened, the next turn, that 4th turn, it's going to be able to be non-disabled.
So the question that I'm asking is this going to be non-disabled? Is this going to be abled on first on your opponent's turn or on your turn? Because it's disabled for 3 of your turns. So
I guess it would be on their turn, because it would
be
have
on
gone
their turn,
through.
Right? That would soften this card. ETB, it's disabled. On your next turn, it's disabled. On your next turn, it's disabled. But then when your opponent turn, it's not disabled anymore.
And your opponent will have a chance to deal with it before it gets to do stuff. Yeah.
So it is softer in that regard, but I still think that this is like totally fine as a unique that would slot into those things.
Presumably by that point, he's dealing with bigger problems, right?
Or presumably you've given them bigger problems to deal with.
Yeah. All right. What's next? Slimy Mutants. Ordinary monster with far too many teeth. This is 5 mana, 2 blue. 2 blue. 2 water for a 4 power minion. It has Submerge. It says, for 3 mana, transform any ally with Submerge into Slimy Mutants from your hand. So I think like if you have these in your hand and you have like frogs in play, they're just telegraphing. If you have frogs, you can change your frogs into Slimy Mutants, right?
What's the elite, the from Arthurian Legends, the chef that has this ability for threshold that's free?
The chef. No idea.
Dude, no, hold on. I'm looking it up because there's
All right.
there's the dude who's in the kitchen. He's in the kitchen. I'm looking. Hold on. I'm gonna find him real quick. Gareth, bro.
Gareth. Okay, yeah. What does Gareth do?
It says Gareth is a 4-mana 3/4 with 2 air, 2 water threshold. It's a unique mortal disguised as a commoner, and it says if you have air and water threshold, reveal from hand, transform an allied minion mortal into Sir Gareth.
Okay.
So
it's the same effect, but what's his power?
4-mana 3/4.
This is better.
But it's free. The transform is free if you have the threshold.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but it only turns mortal, where this turns to submerge, like ally with submerge. But between this being ordinary and Gareth, there's now 5 cards that have this sort of like cheat from your hand into transforming from your hand into play, and that is something that you can build around. You can build around a 5 of in your deck.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I don't think that 3 mana for a 4 power guy that needs some setup is like great, but there might be some incidental situations where like there are already, we know there are sites in the game that just produce frogs. Frogs have submerge, right? So you never know.
Could I ask on the transformability? Do you have to, in order to use the transformability, do you have to meet the threshold requirement, or does it bypass it? Like, this needs 2 water threshold. Could you transform this without 2 water thresholds?
Someone get in the comments and let us know, because I have no idea. I would say no, because it's not saying you have to have threshold.
I would presume no.
Generally, it would say like 3 mana and some amount of threshold to do this. So I would say no.
I would presume no, but I don't know if this alt cast is saying instead of 5, it's 3, but you still have to look at the threshold. I don't know.
All right. Elder Ruins, an elite site beneath Mountains of Madness. Sacrifice a minion here. Cast a Shogoth. Submerged here from your collection. Shogoth is 6 mana for a 5 Voidwalk Submerge, I think.
Oh, it's a big boy.
He's a big boy. Let me look up Shogoth real fast. I was 100% correct. 6 mana for a 5 power Submerged Voidwalk minion. This is a big guy. Shogoths. Howard Pennywise Lovecraft once said.
This is another one of those. The same thing that we said about Molten Moor, we say about this too. It's another Genesis of body.
Phil, huge shame to me for not remembering what the P and HP Lovecraft stands for. Do you know what it is? Pretty bad. I deserve all the shame.
Dude, I deserve some shame. I didn't even know it, and that's my name. So this is another. If you look at, depending on how many Shogoths, Shogoth is elite.
Shogoths are common, I believe. Shogoths are ordinary minions. They're the kind of thing you would just throw in your collection.
So this is like one of those spots where like sacrifice a minion again. Like, we know Necromancer is just pumping out 1/1 bodies. If you have any throwaway bodies, like you were just talking about with like, the frogs,
no, yeah.
Like, sacrifice a minion here. That means that over the course of a game, if you just play the 4 Shogoths in your collection, that means that this site can represent just 4 thick bodies by itself.
Yeah,
like,
it's actually kind of crazy. I was thinking this was like a Genesis, but like that wouldn't make sense because there wouldn't be anything here.
It's a huge collection.
Just whenever you want to do it. It's just whenever you want to do it. That's crazy.
So sacrifice a minion here. Does that mean that you could do it on your opponent's turn? No, sorcery still cares about timing.
The game is called Sorcery. Everything happens at sorcery speed.
Wow. Okay, but like this thing, if you make that collection commitment, that's a whole build around. Like,
it is.
You could just build a deck where you're like, yep, I'm playing a bunch of magics, and then I have things that generate bodies, but just otherwise, like, I'm just gonna kill you with the Shogoth.
This is a literal like a factory of Shogoths.
I'm already in the brewing space of like, oh, these lands that can make it so that like my Archie deck doesn't need to play minions main. But like, that also means that I want to know the ruling. I want them to release the ruling for us. If you shuffle back something from your cemetery,
they go to your cemetery. They go to your cemetery.
No. I know that they go to your cemetery, but let's say we're going to get to return to nature. Let's say I return to nature something from my collection. Does it go back into the collection, or does it go into the spell book?
It goes back into your deck, into your.
It goes back into your. What does that mean, Zac?
Your spell book.
It goes into your spellbook,
Yeah.
even if it was from your collection?
Yep. The backs are what the backs are.
Okay, so you
Yeah,
can't like
Yeah, I was
just
talking.
recur this
I've been
forever.
talking to people about this. I'm pretty positive that you don't just like it to replenish your collection
It would be
until the
so
game
sweet.
ends.
It would be so sweet, dude.
Yeah.
That would be an infinite game.
All right. Shackled Demon, 4 mana, 1 fire threshold for a 5 power minion. Hello, Elite Demon. Disabled until an adjacent spellcaster taps to release him. This is out of all the like drawback demons I've seen so far. Like 4 for 5 is very good. It's above rate, but like this is not that big of an ask, especially if you're in the mid range space where you're like, well, I've played out all my sites. I'm at 4. Now I can play this, and then next turn I'll tap my avatar to get this guy going. Like you always have your avatar as a spellcaster, but if you're playing any spellcasters as well, like 9 out of 10, like your apprentice wizard wasn't doing anything relevant anyhow, or your grandmaster wizard, or if you have an adept illusionist, like there's a lot of spellcasters in the game that like aren't doing a whole ton otherwise. So like unshackling a demon seems like a great plan. This is actually, of all of the drawback demons I've seen so far, this is my favorite.
Yeah, I think also I think the cost of like if you already have incidental spellcasters in your deck, like I've been loving the illusionist adept. Like you're gonna have incidental if you're playing with spellcasters at all, whether it's your uh, apprentice wizards or whatever like that. Like I think that this is going to be pretty reliably a 4 mana 5 power creature without too much of a drawback.
Mhm.
Particularly because there's a lot of spellcasters that you don't care to move into combat anyway. They're not there to get into combat.
And you can Sisters of Silence these guys too, which I
Yes,
think is going
yeah,
to be a theme as we play a lot of these demons. Is like you can Sisters of Silence some of these demons and not deal with any of the bad stuff.
absolutely.
All right. Next up, Demonic Contract. We talked about this when it was first released, but I'll give a quick, just a quick like things I've thought about since this time. Cerberus is one of the demons in the main set. Three mana for Cerberus, right? So this card, Searcher, this is 2 and 2 red, 2 fire for search your spellbook for any card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle afterwards. You may only search for a spell that has the rarity of lower or equal value, rarity to a demon minion that you control. As an additional cost to cast Demonic Contract, you must pay 4 life or reach an accord with said demon by sacrificing a coin, an egg, a frog, a gem, a goat, a rune, a treasure, or a mortal soul. So even at pay for, like if you're an aggressive deck, pay for life is not that big of a cost. So let's not even worry about the like extra coin, all that stuff. Like pay for life to pay 2 mana to go get any card that you want is not nothing. And if you're playing like I said, 3 mana, right, for the Cerberus, if you untap and go, I'm going to spend 2 mana to go get any other card in my deck, presumably that card is going to be insanely potent, right? But even if you're playing like, we've got this elite guy up here, he's an elite demon, right? He doesn't even have to be unshackled to be able to reach an accord with them, right? So if all you're doing is going, I'm going to go spend 2 mana to get another one of these guys, like 2 mana to get any card of almost any rarity in your deck, especially when there are so many that look playable demons of high rarity. I think that this card is going to be like a super role player. You're going to see this card as much in a demon deck as you would see in any other deck that wants to play Grandmaster Wizard, I think.
Yeah, I think that this card is obviously a slam dunk. Just like 2 mana, like tutoring, especially as we get into 60 card decks, like this just being 2 additional copies of whatever it is that you're looking for. Like I get that like you need to be playing with some amount of demons, but like if you're playing with any amount of demons, this thing seems like it would be a worthwhile thing to do. Now you need we have to figure out what is the density of demons to ensure that this thing is live.
You want to be like 10 to I think maybe even 15 might be the correct answer. But remember, you're gonna it costs 2 mana. You're gonna be in a spot where you have this in your hand and it is like cluttering up your hand because you can't use it. But the moment you get to like turn 6 and you're like, slam demon, cast this, right? Like you're gonna be able to do it like that so that you can go get whatever you want. Like you don't have to wait, oh, I gotta wait until I get like till next turn to do it. Like you can have enough mana because it only costs 2 to just tack 2 on top of any demon in the deck and go get a card that you need. It's any card, doesn't have to be another demon either.
Yeah, that's why it's powerful. This will just meet the moment at all times, and also it will make it such that like this is the type of card that you're always going to have to think about. If your opponent has a demon on the table, you're going to have to think about whether or not you are supposed to point removal at the demon as opposed to anything else. That way, this thing isn't live.
Yeah. Do you want to spend mana to kill this demon? It's not even been unshackled yet. Like, does your opponent know if you're even going to ever unshackle it? Like, oh, it's just fodder for your demonic contract? That sort of thing, right?
Yeah. So when the other part of it too that we haven't necessarily talked about yet is contract. You must pay 4 life or reach an accord with said demon by sacrificing a coin, egg, frog, gem, goat, rune, treasure, or mortal. So all those things, this can also function as a sack outlet for any of those things, and there might be value to that.
Could be.
There could be value to sacrificing something, like whenever something is sacrificed, whenever something dies, or whenever something, maybe there's something that you want in the cemetery. I don't know. So eggs, there's what, like Angel's Egg?
Angel's Egg, Devil's Egg. There's, frog tokens. We don't have any gems yet that we know of. I don't believe there are any goats or runes. There is a treasure. Sunken treasure is a treasure. And there's plenty of mortals.
Sunken treasure, buried treasure, yeah. But like, I don't know, if you're playing like any of the sites that generate a foot soldier.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like if you're foot soldiers and demons, and then you're like, all right, sacrifice this foot soldier, go get whatever I want.
4 life is not too much to pay to get anything from your deck. We do this in Magic all the time with Vampiric Tutor for 2 life, and it's if you want something, getting it now and not waiting a bunch of turns. It's like getting the tempo is obviously 20 times better than waiting a couple turns until you have something to sacrifice. So
this is card specifically also is going to make me look at every single unique demon. The cheapest unique demon that's available implicitly is going to be the best pairing with this card.
That's Cerberus right now. 3 mana.
So it's like, if you're looking at it with that card, you're like, oh, if there's anything that I can pull out of the collection that is unique, that turns this on to literally put my entire spellbook into my hand to choose whatever I want, that's where that's where the highest potency of this card is.
All right. Returned King. It's 6 mana, 2 Earth Threshold, 3 power, unique undead, triumphs over death. All other undead have +1. You control undead. It's king. It's king of the realm, but like he's dead and undead.
I think it's pretty potent for it's also a mana cheaper than King of the Realm. But if you're in the Necromancer deck and you're just pumping out all these skeleton tokens, like just out of nowhere, knowing that this is available in the mid to late game, your opponent.
Well, it is not like it seems like many of the undead cards are air, so there are a lot of earth undead cards too. So we'll have to see. This is a card that I kind of want. Like I want something to get a unique out of my collection.
Yeah,
because like this is a card I would play if I was just in Earth. If I could just like if there was a card in my deck that was like get any one unique out of your collection, and just have it. Like I'd play this. I'd play King. Because these are just super swingy. If you didn't have to play this in your main deck and you could just go snag it. That's where you want this. All right. The word token. Undesirables are a ordinary demon shunned by all for 6 and 1 earth threshold for 5 brewing. Allies can't enter the site.
Yeah, this is the first card where I'm like, I don't think anybody's ever going to play this card.
There are limited reasons to play this card, right? Like draft is this is a fine role player in draft. Pith Imp. So 2 and an air threshold for a 1 power ordinary demon. Airborne. Genesis is steals a random spell from your opponent's hand until it leaves the realm. Now, I have been watching a lot of people talk about this card, Phil, and it seems like they don't understand what steals means. They just think that it like removes it from them being able to play it until this leaves the realm. I'm talking about taking this card in your hand and playing it.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to wait on the ruling on that. Does this mean that it steals it and it just hangs out stolen, or stealing means that you can cast it? Because if this card is steal a spell from your opponent's hand and get to cast it as a 2/1 airborne, like that is crazy.
That is my impression of what this card does, but I think we'll have to wait until we see.
I'm gonna guess that it's not that, only on the fact that it's ordinary. To steal an opponent's spell out of their hand and get to cast it does not feel ordinary to me. That feels incredible. That would be an insane swing. I get that it's random, but just like plus oneing on a card out of your opponent's hand, like that would be so powerful. That would be like warping at ordinary. That would mean that especially at only one air threshold. Like if you can steal a card out of your opponent's hand, that would have to be like triple threshold.
Phil, breaking news. I'm gonna break this news with you right now. I'm hearing an echo. That's not the news. All right, the news is on Sunday, December 7th. That is the weekend we get back from our European vacation. There is a sorcery tournament for the Gothic release at Top Deck.
On what day?
On Sunday. December 7th, Sunday. There is a $45 participants required to have an account, blah, blah. So you'll get a participant will receive 1 starter deck and 4 packs. 30-minute deck construction. Spellbook must contain 36 cards. Atlas contains 16. 50-minute rounds. 2 boosters per match win. 1 booster for a draw.
Bro,
should be some fun sorcerying.
You're gonna have to run that one without me. I'm gonna be busy on that Sunday.
Yeah, no doubt. I figured I'd throw that in real fast, just so everyone knows. Top Deck Games in New Jersey is running a release event for Gothic, so be there, be square. All right, Asmodeus. We used to do Phil. We used to do I had a D&D group back in the day, and for Christmas, what do you do for Christmas for your D&D group? If not as anonymous Asmodeus, everyone does a Secret Santa. Anyhow, so 5 and 3 fire threshold for Asmodeus is a 3 power minion. It's a unique demon, stealth. Break stealth, destroy everything else here, including this site.
How do you feel about this one?
I don't know, man. Everything else is interesting. The fact, okay, so if you've got that like witch style deck where you're trying to destroy sites, I love this, right? Like if you're trying to just mess with your opponent's ability to deal with like have good like threshold and stuff like that, I think this is like a card you can play. Like that deck already is pretty heavy in fire, but beyond that, this feels like it feels like it reaches those 2 levels of like, this is a control card that has aggro abilities and it's not costed aggressively. So I just don't know where I would play this.
I read this as you can, if you were to bring it onto your own site where you can actually cast it, and there's a bunch of stuff, it's just the Wrath, even though it costs you a site, right? Mm-hmm. But it's a 5 mana, destroy everything at that site. So that's just like pretty potent.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you have to cast it to your own thing and then move it, that's 1 turn that you have to wait where your opponent is going to go, okay, I need to move away from wherever Asmodeus could go. So I either have to spread out or I have to just like move my stuff away from wherever he's going to go. But he's going to control movement just by wherever he's navigating to, but also like destroying a site like itself is already a really good ability. This strikes me as like, this is Magus of the Hamlets or Castles Ablaze.
Yeah.
Right? Like
it certainly is. This is a unique version of that thing. For 5 mana, you're getting 1 extra of those, so you have 7 of that ability in your deck.
No, you could have what? Because Castles Ablaze is elite, right?
Elite, yeah. So 7.
No, because you also have what is it? The 4 threshold aura that nukes everything.
Oh yeah, so 8, and then you can play sinkholes as well. That's Year of the Blaze,
Like
that you're talking
you
about.
could just you could play like the destroy sites deck.
Yeah,
like
you could.
nine effects in your 60 is that's a real deck.
Yeah. I will say this, just as a thing that people are going to think about, and don't do this. You could play Jihad, put this to where the Jihad is on your opponent's site, right, and then blow it up. But that blows up the Jihad. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, because it's touching everything else here, including the site, and it would be one of the 4 sites that the Jihad would be touching, and so it is included. Right?
Yep. All right, speed round here, Phil. We need to go a little bit faster. Corruptor Freak, 3 and 1 fire for a 3 power minion. Exceptional demon. At the end of your turn, deal 2 damage to this site. I think this is very good in the right deck, but I think that deck is like a Sisters of Silence deck where you could have this, play this on your site, not take the damage, then start moving it to your opponent's site and basically be doing extra damage every turn with it.
I think that I'm a little bit higher on this card if you wanted to get super aggro, because you taking 2 damage on your own after this comes in, that's fine. But then this thing is really attacking. Like if you attack an opposing site on the turn later, it's actually hitting for 5, which 3 mana hitting for 5 is that's potent.
The important thing to think here is like what are you playing instead? Like what is also at this rate, and Prowess is already at this rate, and it's got haste, so it's got like charge. So it's one of those things where I think this is a great build around if you're not in situations where you're like, I guess I just lose because I have this, right?
Yeah, there's going to be times like that, but you can. It's just 2 life up front, and then you can move it. So like,
and the fact that most of these demons are not requiring a lot of threshold is pretty interesting. All right, next up, Lesser Blood Demon. 2 and 1 red threshold for a 3 power minion that says Genesis lose 2 life.
I think this is actually pretty good. I think the aggro deck's like
it's good rate.
I get that 2 life, but it's 2 life at a 1 shot. So in the early game, that's going to be like negligible. In the late game, if you're you're bouncing around with life, that's going to be bad for you. But like
you're probably dead if this kills you anyhow.
Yeah, like if you're in this deck anyway, you're looking to get aggro and just 3 power for like what's the troll? The ordinary troll.
Bosk Troll,
like that thing sees plenty of play, and that's not an irrelevant creature type.
Yep. All right, Flare, 4 and 2 red threshold for 3 power. Genesis, deal 1 damage to each other nearby unit.
I think this might be a collection card because you don't know how much that 1 damage, if you're against like Necromancer or like a deck that's pumping out a bunch of foot soldiers or something, or a bunch of frogs, like sure, but like otherwise you don't really know how good that 1 damage is going to look, and 4 mana for 3 is not good enough. But I could see this being like, yeah, it's another demon, ordinary demon that I could pull out with toolbox or something.
Yep. Flaming Skull, 2 and 1 fire threshold for a 2 power minion, airborne fire spellcaster.
I think it's great.
You think this is good?
Well, it's great on rate. Like
airborne by itself, right? Two airborne for 2 is pretty solid. Fire spellcaster is just flavor text.
Well, I think that the bats see plenty of play. I get that they have burrowing, but how often does that ever come up? But it's 2 mana for airborne, and those things are really good.
Yeah.
And
well, they are beasts specifically, and you can get them with
with Falconer.
The Falconer. This is
undead.
So
there's certainly many cards that care about like and pump up your undead, and this thing also being able to like being a spellcaster, dude. I've played against Druid enough now that I understand that a flying spellcaster to go wherever you want to cast whatever you want is really powerful. So
yeah, fair enough. Ghoul. This is just the Ghoul. We knew about this card. 3 for 3, and it's just a 3 power undead that has 1 air threshold.
Dude, it's awesome that the Ghoul has like a little bit of musculature in its shoulders and chest, but then somehow still has a ponytail.
Yeah, like, I have to say, in the realm of being sort of a monster guy, knowing a lot about mythology and monsters, ghouls are not zombies. Ghouls are not undead. They're actually still alive. There's 2 different kinds of ghouls, Phil. There are the World of Darkness ghouls. The World of Darkness ghouls. So a ghoul in the World of Darkness, Vampire the Masquerade, is a human being that drinks the blood of a vampire, but the vampire does not give them their blood to turn them into a vampire. So you get whatever the benefits of like drinking vampire blood are. That's obviously not this, right? Then in like D&D and like other mythoses, ghouls are just people that eat corpses. This is a zombie. Just putting it out there. This is a zombie. Well, let's continue.
But
And
dude,
it actually
but
does
think about it
say
like this.
hungers for flesh. You know,
Dude, look at but this one has the ponytail, dude. This
it does
is
have a nice
this ghoul,
Steven
this
Seagal
ghoul,
style right there.
dude. This ghoul right here is somewhere between the ages of 58 and 64, and he still wants to play in his band with his buddies.
Hell yeah, and it's still going to ladies' night. All right, skeleton. Move or defend. We talked about this. It's a 1 power token, so you don't have to have these in your collection. They're just tokens, and they can't move or defend.
Dude, it's always weird to me when skeletons have armor because it's like, what?
What do you mean?
Like, I get that you want to protect your skeletal structure, but like, if you're playing, like, I don't know.
We're assuming this guy died in war and he just got up.
And just got
We're
up.
not saying we didn't kid out these skeletons. That's
but
silly.
you leave your clothes on when you're a skeleton, man. You get up, you're like, I am gonna keep this helmet on my head.
Yeah, you would think that there would be more skeletons in tuxedos, right?
Also, how do skeletons ever know where they're going? They don't have eyeballs. How do they have sight?
It's because of the necromantic magic, my guy. Come
on.
on.
They can see because of the necromantic magic? Wow.
They don't need to see. The person doing all of the decision making is the necromancer.
Oh shit, dude.
Yeah. All right. Hearkening Kraken. This is 6 and 2 water for a 5 power minion. Exceptional monster, all arms and ears. Submerge. Must be cast submerge and cost 1 less for each enemy in its body of water. This could be a free card.
Dude, I think this is actually good because of that. Like, if you're playing body of water and then you flood, right? Like, you can just like, your opponent might not even be in your body of water, but if you're like in Wave Shaper or something and you're like, okay, like, you got a couple of minions there, I'm gonna like extend my body of water, play this thing submerged for like 1 or 2. That's really good.
The monsters deck might be like the deck that's the closest to like I'm gonna play like a tap out control style deck where you're just like I'm gonna put big guys in for relatively cheap thanks to these things and then cast spells to like make things happen, right? Because if you get this guy out and then you cast that card that does 1 damage for each power he has, like, and you're doing it on like turn 4 or 5, right? Pretty good,
dude. Like affinity for enemies in your body of water is pretty powerful.
Yeah. Virgin in Prayer for 2 mana and 1 Earth Threshold, 1 power minion. Mortal, ordinary mortal, surpassing grace, Genesis Warden allied minion.
I am low on this card only because I want my 2-drops to be something that I can play early. This is a 2-drop that you would play later, but it's like I don't want to draw this card.
Yeah, no one wants to draw this. This is definitely a draft card. You're never in a position where you don't want to have to draw this card. It's fine in a circumstance where like you're able to like use that ward as like a removal spell on by putting it onto one of your guys that's already out. But like I agree. This is not a card that you want to actively put into a deck. Maybe Phil, a card that you would want in like your collection is a one of if you just like
ward,
this is better than the like or I'm sure there's an ordinary spell that just says give ward to something. This is better just because it's a body.
Like I could see it maybe like in a very aggro deck where it's like you're just pushing for damage because you can ward anywhere in the realm.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so like you could just play this and then ward wherever you are and then get in for beats. So like it could it could function as a removal spell if you already have some sort of board presence, but you need a lot to go right.
Yep. All right. Day of Judgment. One of the first cards spoiled. Place across anywhere in the realm. Banish evil and damage occupying affected squares. Now, we've already broken this card, Phil, because we realized that with Magellan's Globe, you can put this wherever you want.
Wherever you want. Turn it sideways. Hit the realm however you please with Magellan's Globe.
But assuming that Magellan's Globe is not a thing your opponent is probably playing, this makes it so that if you're spreading yourself around the board in situations where you're either in a corner or you're at the edge, there's just less for your opponent to hit based on how this is coming across. So it's something to think about. But again, like once your opponent gets to 7 mana, playing around anything that your opponent does at 7 mana is like, why are you doing that? Like every card is a haymaker at 7.
Yeah, and this card is obviously fantastic.
And I think I would also rather just like, unless you're really worried about evil, I think I'd rather just play Major Explosion.
I just think that like when you're going to 60 cards, you can play 2 Major Explosions on Day of Judgment, and you probably would if you're in that type of deck. Like I think like getting additional copies of cards that have already proven themselves to be very good as we go to 60 cards. And also, I mean, look at this art. Oh my god, with the angels in the center like that, bro.
Really makes you think about going to the Vatican, right?
Dude, like how do we get this one?
You have to be a judge, and you
Damn.
have to run a Crossroads event. So,
that's crazy. That is so pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty rad. Okay, Second Wind. Magic, an allied minion takes a step. You may cast a spell from your cemetery after banishing it for 1 and an air. I'm not sure I'm in love with this card, but it is, you do get to cast it twice.
Dude, I think like cards with flashback, I think inherently are just really good. I get that this is so incidental, but like for 2 mana, you move 2 steps on the same turn if you want to. I mean, this is also where it's like what we were talking about with like all of the minions that like care about what sites they're on. Like you play them, and then this thing is just sitting in your yard, and you know that now you have like burn spells sitting in your deck because like that demon or whatever. I don't know. I like this being like incidental in ways that like obviously you require some amount of setup to like actually pay it off, but the fact that there's just 2 spells in one and like has just a ton of play to it, like I'm high on this card. I think it could be really good.
Yeah, I mean, and there's obviously a premium on being able to cast multiple spells in a turn if you're a Ring of Morgan person. 10-ton slug for 7 mana, 2 water. It's a 7 power minion. It's ordinary, and there's not anything else to say about it, really.
Yep. It sure is 10-tonning.
Yep. 10-tonning with a 7. Is ton with an E 1/7 of what a ton is? Because that would be hilarious. Anyhow, Gnarled Wendigo, 5 power minion for 6 and a water threshold. Exceptional monster, speak not its name. This costs 2 less for each minion you sacrifice at its summoning location. Again, these spells that you can get in, like, you could say, oh, I Plague a Frog last turn to like block some stuff or whatever. And you're just like, all right, I'll sacrifice 3 frogs and put this guy in for free and then cast something else.
Dude, your best opener, like the best opener for any aggro deck, it has to be just like a turn 1 tadpole pool, sack the frogs, play this, go.
Yeah, I think you need some amount of threshold for tadpole pool.
Tadpole pool you need?
I think you need a 3 threshold.
Never mind then.
Yeah.
It's still pretty good though. It's free.
Shogoth. We talked about Shogoth. There he is. River of Blood we talked about. Gift of the Frog. Summon a frog. Summon a frog token to another ally. Draw a card. I mean, this is a card that can start off that chain, and it is a 2 mana draw card. It's 2 mana but 2 water threshold, so there is that. But if you're the type of person who wants to be that like Shogoth, whatever, Wendigo, you name it type deck, the 2 mana draw a card cards are the staple of this game, it seems like. Those are the cantrips.
Dude, I think if you looked at this as an 0-1 that drew a card, like that's actually pretty good for the rate that this is.
That's how I look at. Sorry, there are no 0-1s in this game. A 0 power minion, but that's basically what you're getting 9 times out of 10 with Apprentice Wizard. Anyhow, like Apprentice Wizard almost never trades; it just blocks.
Yeah, I think that this card is actually very good. I could see this becoming like one of those help churn cards for Archie, as well as like if you care about the frogs, like you were messing around with what's the shapeshift? It's like more things to do with that, which is really good. I'm really high on Gift of the Frog.
Yeah. All right, Return to Nature. Here we go.
Bro.
Phil loves this card, dude. Return Nature for 1 blue, 1 water threshold, and 2 mana. Ordinary magic preserves the natural order. Return up to 3 cards from a cemetery to the bottom of their decks. Draw a spell.
Dude, Gaia's Blessing is absolutely my jam. I love this card so much. This is going to be both the best and worst thing that has happened to me since I got into this game. It is the best thing because it's just going to, like, now that this aspect has been introduced on the cheap in the a threshold that I'm interested in playing, this is going to open up so many possibilities for things that you can do. The downside is that now that this is a thing that you can do, it's going to be the only thing that I ever want to do, and it's just going to absolutely absorb all of my deck building capacity.
You're going to have to look to me for brews that don't include Return to Nature in them going forward for this podcast.
Bro, this card is my top pick of the set so far, man. I love this card.
All right, Noxious Corpse. It's a lethal 2-power minion for 2 and a fire. I think this is fine, but not great. This is a draft card. Eltham Townsfolk for a 2-power minion for 1 mana and 1 earth threshold. They're just ordinary mortals, stubborn as their soil.
Just being stubborn.
It's a collection card. I think there's some cards that
care about that.
Ask for this or something like that. Necronomicon. This card's a trap. As cool as it is, as funny as it is, unless you're the type of deck that really wants to be getting out a bunch of instruments, I feel like Necronomicon, you really have to be instruments and undead, or have a lot of different undead. Because even if this card draws you 5 cards, which it rarely will, there's just a lot of other cards that do kind of a very similar thing for a little bit less mana.
So does joins the band, is that flavor or does that move them?
No, that's just flavor.
Okay, it's not like if I play this,
there's no banding in this.
Yeah, but it's not like, okay, my avatar casts Necronomicon and I have 5 different allies nearby.
Mm-hmm.
They don't all move to the square that my avatar's on, right?
They do not. No.
Okay. I actually think I'm high on this card because I'm just high on anything that says draw card. And this thing, as long as whatever you're doing, each differently named undead and instrument, I think the trick to making this card actually powerful and not feel like you're making concessions is the cards that the cards that you would play that are undead and or instruments are things that you would be playing anyway before you even think about this card. That's the way to make this card really powerful, is don't actually make deck building concessions to make it good. Just play the cards you want to play that are already in this space, and then this card is powerful.
Yeah, I think, being elite, putting 2 of these in your deck is not the worst. You're almost guaranteed to just this card cycles for 5, which isn't the greatest, but this card is going to feel good when you get 3 cards out of it. It's going to feel
crazy
when you get 2 cards out of it.
Dude, do you know how good it feels just to play a Grandmaster Wizard?
It feels great.
3.
Now, 5 mana for a Grandmaster Wizard feels amazing.
If you, and you already know that if you're in something like Necromancer, that you're alrety guaranteed to have 1.
Yeah, so you're going to get 1 off it every time. It just, the differently named undead is going to be the thing to the hurdle to jump over.
It's nice to know that in Necromancer, at least, the floor on this actually is just 5 mana cycle.
Yeah. Now, drums, I think what drums does is it gives everything nearby lethal. I'm pretty sure that's how that works. So if you just have drums out, every one of your undead skeletons has lethal, which is amazing. So it's worth playing drums at the very least. All right, let's go to the next one here. Road to Perdition, exceptional sight. Target evil gains or loses 1 power this turn. Okay. Target nearby evil?
Yeah, nearby.
Yeah. In fire, which is a little weird because I'm thinking earth. I mean, maybe fire and air is where you want to be. We'll see.
I mean, yeah, this is also another, all of those undercosted aggro demons, right? You just get in for an additional point of damage. That's really powerful. We were just talking about Jumble Bones being the incidental additional 1 power.
Just add a little bit of extra. Yep.
Also, this can go both ways too. You can give your opponent's nearby evil one less power and then kill it, right? Attack it down. Yeah. So
we'll see where red ends up, where fire ends up. We got Archangel Michael for 4 fire threshold at 5 mana, 4 power minion. Airborne and Ward. We now know what Ward does since this has been spoiled. Genesis. Players lose 1 life for each evil minion they control or in their cemetery. This is a late game blowout if you play it against a evil deck.
I assume that there's going to be cards that make it so there's going to be some aura or something, right? That's play this, everything affected here is evil or something, right? there's got to be something like that to make it so that the cards that care about this batching, like there's no way in 440 cards they're not going to do something that's batching relevant or like manipulate it the board so that the batch, like they're going to do something like that. They have to, right? Like it would be the space there is too rich. So I think that like this card being like a, you know, the 1/2 like bam bam you, right? You're at, you know, 11. No, you're not. You're at death's door, idiot.
Yeah. Right. Fields of Freesis, we saw. Anio. I know. Go with I know. So for 3 mana and 2 water threshold, a 3 power minion, immortal that is unique. At the end of your turn, I know may take a step between the top and bottom edges of the realm to gain stealth.
Bro, this is like, this card reads, it is on top of your opponent's avatar with stealth. Pass.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, and let's just shout out to the amazing Quentin Hoover art too.
Of course.
So sick. This is like a piece that I would love to have on my wall. Like this is so rad.
This card is an insane. Like this card is 3 mana. It's on top of your opponent's avatar.
Yep.
If they haven't moved, right? But like,
yeah, it's doing a very good Polar Explorers what's called impression. And stealth is not nothing. Stealth means that it can't be blocked. So if you have to get in that last point, right? You play this at the end of your turn, it moves in between, it has stealth, and now your opponent has to get the hell out of there, or they're going to get hit by this stealth minion, because no one can block a stealth creature. So if they're getting in, that's the game.
Also, if there's any type of relic or something that you would like to move towards your opponent's avatar, like I get that Maddening Bell is going to be tough because it's symmetrical and you never want it near you, but like something like that where it's like, oh, this thing can just carry something right to your opponent's avatar, is also kind of cool.
And like there's Devil's Egg is a perfect card to choose too, right? All right, Dreadwing, airborne for 5 mana. This is 5 and 1 air for a 4 mana ordinary airborne, strikes your avatar unless you discard a card. Hey, how do you feel about that?
I think like this you have to read as what it is Genesis discard a card, and so you have to want discard outlets.
Yeah, agreed.
If you look at this as a 5 mana 4 power airborne with an enabler that you want, like you want to discard cards because you want stuff in your cemetery, then it becomes interesting. If you read it as like, oh, this actually sucks, like of course it's bad. But
yeah,
like,
I think if you can find reasons to discard cards, I still haven't seen anything that like really gets me into that space, especially for 5 mana. But 5 mana for four airborne is not the worst.
So it's got a lot going on, right?
It's got to have upside though.
The rate of a 5 mana 4 power airborne demon is quite good. And then if you actually read this as whatever this is actually enabling to pay off by putting it into your cemetery, then now we're looking at the means of a good build around.
Yeah, right? Now you can discard your what's it called? You discard your Great Old One so that you can get it for your Regurgitator. There you go.
I think like if you just like remove the strike your avatar and just read it as Genesis discard a card, then all of a sudden it becomes a really interesting card.
Dominant Monstrosity, 7 and 2 water threshold for a 6 power minion elite monster in Cosmic Reverie. Voidwalk must be cast to a corner void, costing 2 less for each unit in an adjacent square. This could come down for free.
Yeah, this is another one that comes down and is potentially free, which is like you could just build the like Plague of Frogs deck. I get that.
Well, this is more for each unit in an adjacent square. I mean, like you could put this down and then play like, you know, right next to your opponent's avatar if they weren't being smart, right? Like, let's say they've got 2 guys. They've got they summoned a wizard to their spot. It's your turn 3 now. You have 3 mana. They have reduced this by 4. Now you have a Voidwalk minion right next to them.
And it's monster, as we've learned, is going to have a relevant type to it. So.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Cemetery Rats. Burrowing, discard up to 2. Your top 2 spells as a Genesis.
Yo, I think that's really
power.
Good.
Yeah, this will be interesting, especially if you're a deck that actually wants. It's a shame that like the burrowing is it's a 1 power burrowing as opposed to 2, because 2 could at least attack like a spider or something like that.
No, it can't. It's disabled.
This is true. No, it's not disabled. It's things above the spider disabled. This is burrowing. Yeah.
Either way, like this is the first time we're actually seeing a 1-mana enabler. This is what you call it. This is Stitcher Supplier, man.
Stitcher
This is
Supplier,
great.
yeah, indeed.
This card's great.
All right, Screamer. We've seen Scream. We saw the intro with Screamer for sure. Tap target adjacent enemy minion, make it take a step away.
So, what was the ruling on this card? If you play this, does the player who casts Screamer get to control where the step goes, or is the player who's moving control it?
You do, the person playing it, because you're making it take a step away.
That's what I read it as too, but that doesn't seem clear to me.
So three power for a 3-mana and 2 air threshold minion. This is just a card that like make problematic blockers be less problematic.
Bro, where is the flavor? Like, how do they just tack on this destroys all silence?
Right?
It says Breaker of Silence, but it would be weird if you cast Screamer where silence is, it doesn't actually scream.
No.
I guess silence is just more powerful.
Yeah. You can't scream if you're silent. Desecrated Kite, 1 mana and 1 air threshold for a 1 power minion, airborne. At the end of your turn, deal 1 damage to this site. It's it's a very aggressive dude.
This is also this is the first 1-mana monster we're seeing. So if there's any monster payoff that you get on the cheap, this is going to be the thing that helps enable that early on if you're trying to do it. And also, like, this does hit for 2, even though it only has 1 power.
Yeah,
like if you attack a site,
and airborne, it's not nothing.
Site,
like it can move around. Right?
Yeah, this like I actually read this as a 1-mana 2-power airborne, even though like in combat it's not good. But if you're trying to get aggro and use this as an enabler, it actually seems pretty powerful.
Yeah, and it's to the site and it's airborne. So like it's going to be hard to get rid of this if your opponent is using other minions to try and get rid of it because they can't attack it, right? So it's interesting that this is a card that I think will definitely see play. Flame of the First Ones, unique relic for 2 mana. Whenever the flame stops on a new site, you heal 1 and your opponent loses 1. I don't think this is playable.
So what I want to, my understanding is it means that like this thing will always remember any site that it's been to, right?
Yeah, just like wildfire tracks a site.
So the actual value of this thing is it's 2 mana. Anybody can pick it up.
It's going to be a lightning helix. It's going to deal 3 and you're going to gain 3 over the course of the game, I think.
If you have something that has, if something has stealth, if they pick this up, do they lose stealth?
No.
Picking up and dropping does not lose stealth.
Correct.
I got to learn what interacting with the realm actually entails.
Interacting with the realm is attacking, blocking, or casting a spell.
Okay, so picking up. So if you put this on a stealth minion and you just start walking around,
sure, you could do that, but I think that you're probably better off just attacking or putting something that's not this in your deck.
If movement is movement +1, if you can you move, it stops and then movement +1 move again.
No, it's stop is a stop.
Stop is a stop. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Entombed must be cast burrowed. It's another boss troll. This is a 2 earth, 2 mana, 1 earth, entombed, 3 power. Burrowing must be cast burrowed.
I think this is pretty good just because we've seen like the little boost that undead get from like, consecrated ground or whatever, and
this is fine. Like I just think that this card might as well say can't attack the turn it comes in, the next turn, because you've got to get it above and then you've got to move it.
But
so
it does block.
It can block on that site in particular, though. Our boy Necromancer, we know about this. 21 and this is not undead or evil, right? Tap to player draw a site. Once on your turn, you may pay 1 mana to summon a skeleton token here. I mean,
so powerful.
You've got so many. This looks innocuous, but getting a skeleton every turn is bonkers.
So powerful.
Searing Truth is a card I really like. So 3 mana for 2 fire affinity, and it's exceptional magic. Target player draws 2 cards, reveals 2 spells, and takes damage equal to the higher cost one.
I think that's excellent. This just being divination, that yes, you're gonna take some damage, but like 3 mana draw 2, like that is a rate in this game. That is very good.
Yeah, and so think about this, casting this to yourself, right? Target player draws cards and reveals 2 spells. That's 2 separate things that are happening. You're not looking at the top 2 and choosing the top 2 to show, right? You're drawing 2 cards and then picking from your hand the 2 least the least expensive ones, and then you're taking damage to the equal to the most expensive one.
No, it's target player draws and reveals 2 spells. I think the and clause.
You're right.
I can see,
I'm being dumb. You're
I can see how
100% correct.
I can see how you would interpret it, but like the and makes it so that it's clear that you're whatever the 2 things that you're drawing are the things you're revealing.
Yeah, no, I read that wrong. I read that in my head as draws 2 spells and reveals 2 spells, which
Still,
is
this being
different.
an exceptional magic, like if ever there was a reason to get into fire, like I think this is one of the biggest ones.
Very
like
good.
3 mana draw 2 is crazy. It's so good.
All right. Silent Hills, not even whisper at this ordinary site. Genesis to your next turn. Minions are silenced while it's hop nearby sites. It's fine. This is one of those. It's going to be a role player ordinary site. Slide. This is an exceptional site. Genesis, slide all units and land sites in this column 1 step to the left or right.
I think this is
at
so
land
good.
Sites. Sorry, at land sites.
I think this is really cool because like there's so many sites that like I don't know, like bottomless pit and stuff like that, where it's just like if how does your opponent ever like if they see this is an exceptional site and it's like your opponents just can never like I don't know. It's interesting though because it means that like it's in this column and it's like
there's a limited amount of time to play this card, right? But
like
when you get people, it's going to feel great, right? I think the idea with like bottomless pit is actually perfect. That makes a lot of sense there. But you also have stuff like, oh, now you're in my body of water. Now my pirate ships can hit you, that sort of thing.
Slide everything into your body of water and then submerge that guy or whatever that we were looking at earlier. Like,
Oh, there it is, Desecrate. This is the card I was talking about, Phil.
Yep.
An evil ally strikes the site when then it may transform into a desecrated ground in your collection. I think that this card is easily going to be, and it's only 2 mana. 2 mana.
What's really good about this is so like you can attack a site, and then this is another burn spell to double dip.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, you play this on a vampire, smash the site for 4, and then it flips into a desecrated ground. Your vampire's now a 5. You hit for 9. You gained 9 as well. Like, get out of here.
Dapril's undead, right?
Yeah. Vampires are undead. Silver Bullet. We've gone into talking about this and Toolbox, so I don't want to go too long on this. These are good. These are very good.
Believe that I'm going to be playing all of these.
Yeah. Willing Tribute, 2 and an heir for a 2-power minion. Sacrifice, untap evil, an adjacent evil ally. This is it's going to be a role player card that's either going to be amazing in a deck that wants to attack twice with a giant dude, or it's going to be like a draft card. I just don't know.
Yeah, I think that like the enabling, like the untap effect is like, what evil do you intend to untap, and whatever that looks like, this can be powerful. Untapping is just powerful.
Yeah. Master Necromancer. This card's bonkers. He's a spellcaster. Genesis, summon a skeleton token to each other adjacent site. So that's just play it in the right spot, and you get 4 skeletons. On top of the fact that this guy's a spellcaster and he's got 2 power, so this is make 6 power for spread over 5 bodies for 5 mana.
It's that ambush card, Undead Ambush.
Yeah, but like with a body that can cast spells.
Which this is the exact kind of card you want in your Death Speaker deck.
Yeah, exactly. Release the Hounds. This gets 2 Hellhounds from your collection. And
I'm actually not as high on this. Like looking at the other stuff that you get, like the sacrifice a minion to get a shag off. Like I get that this is it's 2 charged bodies across things, but I'm like, if you're in fire and like Hellhounds like are demons, so like you maybe there's some value in that, but otherwise like we've like you were talking about Major Explosion, Day of Judgment. Like if you want to like do something at 7 to like wrath the table, like yes, this is 7 mana and it's 6 power, so you can burn spell somebody out down to death's door real fast. But like you can do that with all of the Day of Judgment or Major Explosion as well. Like I think this is
a limited bomb, and then that's kind of it. I think.
Yeah, I'm underwhelmed by it compared to the other things that you would use it for, unless you really, really just don't want to be playing any minions in your deck, and this is just more things to do that. Don't play this card.
It was huge a freak.
Bro.
So this 4 power for a 3 mana minion with 2 fire 2 fire threshold. Airborne. At the start of your turn, you lose 2 life.
You know what the value of this card is? Is that it's a cheap elite demon for demonic contract. But beyond that, the fact that you can't escape the 2 life. It's not like the other ones where you can
You gotta
move the site
silence it,
around.
man. You gotta silence it.
You gotta silence it. You just have to. You have to silence this card. That way, you don't lose the 2 life over and over. Because like if you think about it, at the start of your turn, it's 2 life. So this thing is 3 mana. You lose 2 life if they don't deal with it, and then you attack and do something. But like, it's just so much life, and they can just like not kill it and burn you out. Like you gotta.
It's gonna be funny when we see these demon decks that are like based around these cards, but they're like there's a mirror match, and it's just like it's over so fast.
So fast.
All right, Open Grave. You may pay 1 to summon a skeleton here. Earth Threshold site. I love it. That's right where you want to be. Is just summoning skeletons.
All the foot soldier decks that have these cards they always seem to overperform.
Yep. Cursed Iron. This is one of the first cards that was spoiled. Elite Aura punish to punish the possessive. Artifacts here can't be dropped and deal 1 damage to its bearer. Each deals 1 damage to its bearer at the end of turn. I don't know that this is even good enough to stop the ring. I think you're better off just rocking the ring. But it is a card for that kind of hate. And hey, if you play against a deck like this is a fine card to put into your collection. If you're playing against something like a Battle Mage or something that's like stocked up, or Death Speaker that's like stocked up on jewelry, and you just drop that and you're just like take 4, and it takes them another turn to get away, and it's like taking 4 more. It can be like that. Troubled Town. There it is. Summon the townsfolk from your collection to the site. There you go. All Mortals Gone. Kill all mortals. Unique magic. So we haven't seen anything that can pull a unique from your collection yet, but this feels like a collection card.
Mm-hmm.
For 3, it is 3 mana and 2 air threshold. So like you've got that going for you. Like I would love to be able to get this if I was in like my what's it called? Like if you're an evil deck, obviously this is fine. But like for me, I'm thinking this is probably very good in Enchantress because I don't have any mortals. Like I have mortals, but they don't matter if they whereas like my opponent might have mortals that they don't want to die. And this could be a card I could be like, oh, you got a bunch of mortals out? I'm gonna go grab this. But I don't want to play it main.
Well, I think like if there's other cards that are like, if there's a minion that's like, whenever a mortal dies, do something cool, like, and this is also like there's a big payoff to this effect. Like,
yeah, like get skeletons for every mortal that dies. All right, so we're gonna go up from the bottom up to the top to finish the rest of these out. Buried Alive is a 2 earth and 3 mana spell. Ordinary magic may be cast by any ally. Burrow target adjacent minion. It's a burrow spell. It's bury it.
I don't think it's as good though, right?
No, because it can be cast by any ally. So I think isn't burrow like anything? You can cast it on anything.
Burrow is anything, and it hits artifacts, right?
Yeah. So this is a draft spell. Ravenous Werewolf. 5 and 1 fire for a charge +1 movement, 3 power minion. Seems like draft chaff to me. Yeah, it's a monster. Got that going for it. That's the OG skeleton token. Those are really cool. Toolbox. We have spoke about Toolbox in depth in a different episode, so we'll go to there. But needless to say, it's very good.
Super high on Toolbox.
Yeah. Then we have Stitched Abomination for 7 and 2 air. This is a star power. The power is star because at Genesis you can manage up to 3 minions from 1 cemetery to stitch together. This abomination has their combined power, but each part may be damaged and destroyed separately. So it goes underneath of it. And then I guess, so weird. Each part may be damaged and destroyed separately. So I guess then if it gets destroyed, then they go back to the graveyard. That would be the flavor of that, right?
Well, because it's saying banish, right?
It says banish, but I think it's just you're putting the underneath to stitch it together onto the abomination.
I would presume that if you destroyed part of it, those things then stay banished.
I guess we'll have to see when an FAQ comes out. Gravedigger. 2 and a earth for a 2 power minion. Genesis burrow target adjacent undead. Exceptional. This could be a card that you get with Silver Bullet, I suppose. I think that
It's also one of those. It's another one of those cards where if the moment that they can do something to make us care about the batch, like if there's an aura that says everything here is undead, then this becomes great.
Yeah. Sphinx Sarcophagus, an elite site that recites a riddle of rhyme. Banish 2 identical spells from a cemetery to draw a card. I don't know that there's just better ways to attack Archimago. I feel like
Identical spells mean that they have to be cards of the same name, right?
cards of the exact same name. And this produces no threshold. So you're just like, I'm getting the mana and maybe I'm drawing a card with this eventually.
I wonder if this is like an enabler for something. Like if there will be a card that's like, when this is banished from a cemetery, do an effect.
Maybe. That'd be the only way this is any good. I don't see it otherwise as being very useful. Crucifix for 3 mana, an elite relic. Genesis, return each evil minion here to its owner's hand. Evil minions can't enter this location. I don't see this as being amazing. But again, it's an elite. Like I suppose if there's a card that can get a specific elite card, you might want to do this to like tempo your opponent back into the Stone Age. But I just don't see it.
Same thing. If this is another thing where you can,
batch
a bunch of stuff and then bounce a board, that's pretty powerful.
This card's going to be great. City of Glass provides 2 instead of 1 air threat. Sorry, if you have air threshold, this provides 2 instead, but it is destroyed when damaged.
Yeah, but we know an Ancient Tomb is going to be powerful.
Yep. Foul Bones. We talked about Bone Jumble. And this is very similar. It's got Airborne, and you can sacrifice a skeleton to put it into play. I think this and the Jumble and possibly some other card will make Necronomicon like a card that like is a little more potent.
Yeah, the fact that these are different names, so you can get a skeleton, a Jumble, and a Foul Bones, and that's 3 different things that only need the
skeletons.
That all are available from the skeletons. Yeah, that actually is pretty spot on.
Yeah. This ordinary beast, carrion beetles for 1 and an earth, 1 power, burrowing. Genesis is banish 3 cards from 1 cemetery. This is a card that you'll probably play with Toolbox. Maybe.
Totally. You'll absolutely play this with Toolbox.
Darkest Dungeon. The next time an ally strikes an avatar this turn, drag both here. So imagine you have like a tawny or something and you just slam into your opponent's guy with a tawny and the avatar just gets zapped, like your Archimago gets zapped to the other side of the board. It's like, that's not great. So this is an interesting one. This does not provide. I think they confirmed this does not provide any threshold. So it's a card that like you're thinking of this as a spell when you play it. All right, Carrionet. Summon an undead minion from cemetery to a nearby location. So this is a card that like gives you an out for your discard effects.
This is Reanimate is powerful, man.
Yeah. It has to be specifically undead though, but it does get it targeted. There is another card that brings a card out of your graveyard, but it doesn't. It is random. So this is much better than that, I think. As long as you're peddling an undead.
This puts it right into play.
Yeah. Bound Spirit, disabled unless adjacent to an allied spellcaster. I think this is a card that like it looks powerful, but 4 for 4 is already not like amazing for just vanilla nothing. And then on top of that, if they get rid of your spellcaster or like they move your avatar or move this, it's just cardboard sitting on the table.
Yeah, this needed to be undercosted for its power.
Like
to have
at 2 for 4, I'd think about playing this card.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Assimilator Snail. Once per turn, you may banish a dead minion. Assimilator Snail becomes a copy of that minion until your next turn. So it happens every turn, but it doesn't stay that way forever. So this is interesting because it does reoccur like Graveyard Hate, but it's only banishing dead minions. And it really just comes down to if there's something powerful enough to be used to keep it there. This gives you a reason to have Sack outlets, though.
Yes, and I also think that like this is also incidental Graveyard Hate again. Like we'll have to see how potent that is, but this just being like every turn you get to get rid of whatever the most powerful thing is, that can be like the most powerful thing in the realm.
Yeah. So 4 mana and 2 water threshold for a who knows is tough. It's right on the cusp.
Dude, so many things though are caring about if you can get Great Old One into your yard.
Yeah,
you can do a bunch of broken stuff.
It's true. Yeah. Redmane Hyena, exceptional beast. 2 for 2. It's 1 red threshold. Banish up to 3 cards from cemeteries of any of your demons. This permanently becomes one and gains +2 power. 2
I
for
think
a
this is also
4
pretty
is
good.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it's a very good on rate.
We talked about carrying beetles. We have another desert. It's Vast Desert. That gives us, I think, 5 deserts at this point. Just regular desert. Does 1 damage. An ordinary site does 1 damage to a minion. Each minion atop a target nearby site. Frozen Horror. Stealth. 5 and 2 water for a 3 power stealth creature. Break stealth. Disable other nearby minions until your next turn. It's tough. You might want this effect. I'm not sure.
It's tough when you could just be playing Root Spider. I
Yeah.
get that it's a different element, but
Yeah. It's only for 1 turn. Ursat's Plats we have talked about in a previous episode. So you can find that link with the Silver Bullet and the Toolbox episode. Mausoleum, an ordinary site that also pay 1 to make a skeleton token. Love that. This is great. Not much more to say about it. The Drowned. This is just like the Buried guy, right? The pay 2 for a 3. It's submerged. It has to be cast submerged. Very similar. Basically the exact same thing, but for water. Search Party. +1 power for each search party in your cemetery. There's a reason to discard cards.
yeah, I don't think that this is going to be competitively. Like, this isn't good enough for high competition because you can only play 4 of, and we're going to 60 card decks. It's like, if this thing is ever a 3 mana 4 power thing, and there's just better things to be doing at that rate.
Exactly. Hot Wheels. 4 for a 2, but its genesis is rolls 2 steps forward, striking another unit at each location it enters. I think that this is a card that is sneakily better than it probably feels like it is.
Yeah, this sort of has pseudo double charge in the right spots, which it's better. It is better than it reads, I think.
Yeah,
Because,
and it's unblockable damage. It just got to remember that
Right.
it goes forward. It doesn't go side to side.
yeah, but it's also another one of those spots where like it's good early to like clean up the stuff if you're a little bit behind, but then it also just can like dome your opponent at death's door.
And there we have it. Phil, we did it. We got through all of the spoilers that we have seen so far. I mean, it goes without saying that we're hyped for this set, but I cannot wait to see what the other avatars do, man. I am ready to brew.
Dude, what is the best card in this set so far, and why is it Return to Nature?
Why is it Return to Nature? Why is it not Maju's Afreet?
Oh my god, never.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we will catch you on the flip later on. Hey, thanks for watching, and if you get a moment, remember to like and subscribe to the video.
Also, don't forget to join us on Patreon at patreon.com/eternaldurdles in the Magician's tier.
Your support means a lot, and it helps us keep pumping out this content. Thanks so much.
Keep contesting the realm.